Breaking Down the Law is sponsored by Battle-Born Injury Law.
All right, welcome to our weekly segment here, Breaking Down the Law, here on News 3 Live at noon, where we touch on topics and how it pertains to the law in our state. And this week we're focusing on an initiative to change the way that we elect our president. So we have Matthew Hoffmann here from Battle-Born Injury Lawyers back with us to break it all down. So this is a proposal that was just passed. It's waiting to be signed by the governor.
Yes, it's on his desk.
And this essentially would mean that instead of counting our electoral votes are going to go towards the popular vote.
Yes.
So talk about that, what the official name for it, and how that is going to affect our state.
Okay, so it's this Interstate Compact where several states are proposing legislation that they would take their electoral votes and rather than casting them for whoever got the majority in their state, they would wait, see what the national result is of the popular vote, and that's who gets their electoral votes. So in Nevada, for example, we currently have 6 electoral votes.
Okay.
And if you go back to the 2000 election, we only had 4 then. But in that election, Al Gore won the national popular vote. Nevada voted for Bush. So our 4 electoral votes went for George Bush.
Right.
Under this law, those 4 votes would have instead gone to Gore. And, you're talking about election-changing results potentially.
Do you think it's interesting, though, that this is not something that was put on the ballot for us to vote on?
Yeah, I'm kind of, regardless of how you feel about, popular vote versus electoral college, I thought it was a little strange that we as voters didn't get to, vote on this. It's just been kind of crammed down our throat, and our legislators have now just joined it. And I mean, we're Nevada. We're the battle-born state. We've had legalized prostitution and gambling long before anyone else.
Yeah.
And the idea that we're just going to vote how everyone else does, that doesn't seem very Nevadan.
But it's not necessarily going to go through, though, even if the governor signs it.
Correct.
Can you explain why?
Okay, so you need 270 electoral votes to win the election.
Okay.
And so until enough states have adopted this law that would compromise 270 electoral votes total, it has no effect. And so in Nevada, we're going to keep doing things the way that we've done them. But because we presumably are going to join this, once enough states join, that will be the way it's going to go going forward.
So when you look at, let's say, the last election, where a lot of people argue that Hillary Clinton got the popular vote, but the electoral votes went and President Trump ended up winning. For a state like California, which has a huge population, or the East Coast, that might be something that people feel would be more fair. But for a state like ours, where our population is not as high as these other states, you're saying that our votes essentially wouldn't really count.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern. So, I mean,
that's a concern of yours.
It's a concern of everyone, I think. I mean, look, the 12th Amendment, which lays out the Electoral College, this was way back in 1804. The whole reason that it was put up that way was to entice states to join the Union. We're a democratic republic. We're 50 independent states the states have conceded a certain amount of sovereignty to have a federal government. And in order to get those states to join, they had to have a certain amount of power. And one of the ways we did that is every state has 2 senators.
Right.
Whether you have 500,000 people, like North Dakota, where I'm from, or you have 50 million people, you have 2 senators. Well, electoral college is the same concept, because you have these agricultural states, for example, that think very differently and have very different interests than the people that live in New York or Los Angeles or Houston or Miami or Chicago. So by having an electoral college, it gives a more balanced representation is the idea. But other people would say, well, we should have a strict democracy, and this is, 2 million more people voted for Hillary Clinton than President Trump, so that's who should win. And that's, I think that's what the impetus of this kind of bill is. So.
All right, so before we wrap up, your general consensus of this, do you think that this is something more states will pick up? I mean, I know that this has been a conversation that has been had since the last election. Where do you think we go from here?
Yeah, I think that the coastal states that haven't joined will. I think Nevada, with its proximity to California, that's kind of telling of the fact that this is passing. Will it come to fruition? Maybe, but even if it does, then it creates a constitutional issue because it's a compact. It would probably need to be ratified by Congress, but Congress can't ratify it because they have no powers under the 12th Amendment. It would violate Article 4 of the Constitution.
So in other words, it's a complicated
It'll be a
process.
battle.
Right, a battle. All right, well, that's something that here in the battle-born state we're used to.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Matthew. We really appreciate it. We'll see him here again next Wednesday to talk about another important topic affecting all of us in Nevada.